As a player, he's one of the best black baseball players of all time. But as a manager, even though he's groundbreaking in being a black player manager for Cleveland during the midst of the post Jackie Robinson era, he was considered by many players in the both leagues be the worst of all time. Now I'm not judging that, but I'll give you a basic indication of why some people consider him, especially in that those back-to-back Sports Illustrated polls in the early 2000s. Frank Robinson wasn't respected. Now he managed in the winter leagues late in his playing career, of course, Baseball Hall of Fame. But by the early 70s, had his heart on becoming the first black manager in the majors. Jackie Robinson had mentioned that right before he had passed away in an announcement of the in a World Series pregame, saying he feel great to see a black manager on the other side of the ball field. This is what occurred. Now, eventually, the Angels, who had his rights, traded him to the Indians midway through the '74 season due to his open campaigning for the manager's job. He was appointed player manager by the Indians on October 2nd, '74, giving him distinction of being the first black manager in the majors and the first black player manager. Robinson had a rocky time in Cleveland. GM Phil Segui generally liked to second guess his manager, along with trying to push him to play alongside managing. The result that he was played roughly 80 games as manager. He would put himself in the lineup. Disagreements with such players as Gaylord Perry did not help matters. He went to the press, Perry did, saying he wanted to be paid $1 more than Robinson's $173,500 salary. For some people, that was considered a racist comment. The Indians had a 79-80 record that campaign and a 81-78 record in '76, their first winning record in 8 years, and this was in a tough AL East. Cleveland started the '77 season 26-31 and fired Robinson on June 19, 1977. Robinson did manage the San Francisco Giants from 81 through 106 games in the '84 season when he was fired again. He finished the '84 season as the hitting coach for the Milwaukee Brewers on a contract worth $1. In '85, he joined the Orioles front office. On April 12, '88, Robinson was named manager of the Orioles, replacing Cal Ripken Sr. after an '06 start to the season. He was eventually awarded the American League Manager of the Year award in '89 for leading the Orioles to an 87-75 record, a turnaround from their previous season in which they went 54-107. Now the division came down to a final three-game series between Baltimore and the Toronto Blue Jays, but the Jays would win their first two games to clinch the division. It would be the closest Robinson ever came to managing the team to the postseason. Of course, the Jays lost an eventual World Series champion Oakland A's on partly Jose Canseco's moonshot at Skydome. Now, Robinson was fired by the Orioles in May '91. After he had spent some years in baseball as the director of discipline, Robinson was chosen by Major League Baseball to manage the Montreal Expos in February 2002 in that Luria collusion, and the MLB owned the squad at that time. The Expos, who had losing records in the 5 previous seasons, finished the 2002 and the '03 campaigns with 83 and 79 records. Now, the Expos then next slumped to a 67 and 95 record in 2004, their final season before relocating to Washington, D.C. Now, in the June 2005 Sports Illustrated poll of 450 MLB players, Robinson was selected as the worst manager in baseball, along with Buck Showalter, the then manager of the Rangers. In the August 2006 poll, he again was voted worst manager with 17% of the vote and 37.7% of the NL East vote, again as Expos Expos manager. Now, on April 20, 2006, with the Nationals' 10-4 victory over the Phillies, Robinson got his 1,000th win, becoming the 53rd manager to reach that milestone. He had earned his 1,000th loss 2 seasons earlier. Now, during the game against the Astros on May 25, 2006, Robinson pulled Nationals catcher Mac LaCroix during the middle of the 7th inning, violating an unwritten rule that managers do not remove position players in the middle of an inning. Instead, managers are supposed to discreetly switch position players in between innings. However, LaCroix, the third-string catcher, had allowed Astro base runners to steal 7 bases over 7 innings and had committed 2 throwing errors. Although the Nationals won the contest 8-5, Robinson found the decision so difficult to make on a player he respected so much, he broke down crying during post-game interviews. Now, on September 30, 2006, the Nationals management declined to renew Robinson's contract for the 2007 season, though he stated he was welcome to come to spring training in an unspecified role. Robinson, who wanted either a front office job or a consultancy, declined. On October 1st, 2006, he managed his final game, a 6-2 loss to the Mets, and prior to the game addressed the fans at RFK Stadium. Robinson's record as a manager stood at 1,065 wins and 1,176 losses. He is just one of 7 managers that have won 1,000 games without having made the postseason once, and is the only one to do it since the expansion era began in '69. Incidentally, 5 of those managers won pennants in the 19th century, while the 6th was Jimmy Dykes, who retired as a manager in 1961. Now, for a lot of people, his best campaign, of course, was Baltimore in '89, 87-75 record, where he finished second place in the AL East. But in that rough AL East division, ladies and gentlemen, fired by Cleveland in '77, fired by San Francisco in '84, fired by Baltimore in '91, and again did not return after 2 years at Washington in '05 and '06. Now, was he a genius? No. Was he a baseball mind? Well, he did win 2 Most Valuable Player awards and his World Series Most Valuable Player award. Now, he was a top pro athlete of any sport in '66. Nobody denying him as an athlete, but as a manager, I don't think a lot of people really respected him, and that's not only me saying that. A lot of Montreal Expos fans believe he didn't do something enough to keep Montreal in Montreal. Basically, he was a lame duck manager, and I think the reason why he won, he placed over 500 those 2 first years in Montreal was using the best of his talent, like Montreal was winning despite himself. And the year that we're leaving, because remember they were making Montreal to play, I think the games in, what was it, Cuba or Puerto Rico? It was a weird time. So Frank Robinson, what's going to stand up for me, ladies and gentlemen, when I was a kid, it was the red uniforms blood red uniforms that Cleveland Indians would wear. But Jackie Robinson, and there's tape of this, the '72 Coca-Cola World Series review, like the film of the series where for Jackie's talking about that. And this was days after he passed away, because he was almost totally blind at the time from diabetic retinopathy, which I had for a short while until I made a return with my vision. So Frank Robinson, as a player, there's no doubt he's a top 20 player of all time. One of the pillars of the Orioles' years. What are the pillars of the Reds? The Little Red Machine. He was a leader of that, not the Big Red Machine of the '70s, of course. But I mean the Milk Pappas deal, that was kind of freaky. But there's a lot of tape. I think this is before This Week in Baseball, but I think Mel Allen did a little documentary when Robinson did become a manager, or I think Joe Garagiola. It's quite interesting. It was an interesting time, mid-'70s. The open free agency, the creative jerseys. It was a very colorful time for the National League and American League. And you had the Expos on the rise. You got the Blue Jays coming in, and the Mariners. From '72 to about '77, what they called the Jackson year. It was a great time for baseball, and Frank Robinson was part of that legacy. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're a Frank Robinson fan or a fan of the myriad of teams he played for. Let us know what you think of his career as a manager with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And don't forget, baseball is a simple game. You throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball, but sometimes you catch flack for being not a very good, I'm not saying, he wasn't, say, a leader of men. He was no Felipe Alou. He was basically Frank Robinson managing. Look at me, I'm Frank Robinson, play good because I'm coaching you. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, I respect him as a player, but as a manager, not so much. Have a good one. Bye.